Hey, beautiful people. So today I want to talk to you about hustle culture versus intentional living and what I learned from switching sides. Now, I can recall back in 2017, 2018, when I was at the height of my busyness era. I was just moving and grooving everywhere, and I wore busyness like it was a badge of honor. And I'm sure some of you can relate to that, whether you're living that lifestyle now or if you have lived it before. But yeah, I used to wear my business as a badge of honor. I used to be like, I'll rest when I'm dead. And I was just always moving and grooving. I would never take the time out to celebrate my accomplishments. I was always moving on to the next thing without taking a breather, a time to reflect. Okay. Then at one point in time, and this was during the pandemic, actually, the pandemic, as I like to say. But yeah, during that time is when I just sat down and I just had a moment to myself, a few moments to myself, and I had to ask myself, what am I trying to prove here by beating myself into the ground, working myself into the ground, achieving this and that, writing this book and helping people write their books and not having time to rest in between. I was doing all this while I was working a 9 to 5 that I wasn't even really passionate about. I was just doing it because I was there for the paycheck. And like I said, at one point, I just sat down and I asked myself, what am I doing all this for? Like none of this really is making me happy. Of course, I enjoy helping people and getting them over that hump, that threshold of getting their own ideas out and writing their books. I really enjoyed that. Notice I said enjoyed plural. I no longer want to do that type of work. But that was very meaningful to me at that time. But at the same time, I was not taking care of myself. I was not being intentional about taking care of myself in the process. I remember having adult acne. I would have these cystic bumps on my cheeks, like, the big bubbly ones that really itch. And, my weight would fluctuate. I would not be sleeping properly. And I was just stressed out altogether. And before I had that talk with myself to really reflect on what does all this mean to me, before I had that talk, I thought that hustle culture would eventually pay off one day. Like I just thought that if I work hard, extra hard, and not, sleep, I'll sleep when I'm dead. If I had that same mentality, if I kept having that same mentality, that one day my efforts would pay off. And for some people, that's how it works out. Everybody's built differently. But for people like me, who need to take that time in between hustling and grinding and all that, achieving goals, you also have to be intentional about taking care of yourself. Because I know for me, speaking for myself, I cannot handle a whole lot of stress. Okay. I just get really overwhelmed. And I'm not ashamed to admit that it is what it is. But yeah, I was brainwashed to believe that my worth was tied to my output. Like quite literally, my worth was tied to my output, whether it was on a job that I was working, if I would hit a certain quota or reach a certain goal, then we would be, or I would be rewarded with a lunch or something, or I don't know, just a special recognition like employee of the month or something like that, or a raise. When really, I just feel as though these jobs should pay us a livable wage as it is already and give us like random gifts of appreciation, whether it's a good free lunch or something like that, or I don't know, like a token of appreciation instead of tying it to, okay, if you do this consistently, then you get this. So yeah, after a while, it just got to be like I felt like I was spinning on a hamster wheel and also just feeling like they were dangling this carrot in front of our faces in order for us to perform a certain way. And it just got to be really, really draining and tiring. And that's when I realized that, okay, all this hustling, I'm not living my life intentionally. So let me do that. Now, let me clarify, intentional living is not the same as doing nothing, but it does mean that you are practicing the art of self-care while achieving your goals, but remembering not to burn yourself out in the midst of achieving your goals. Because what good is it if you're achieving everything, all this stuff you have to do on your to-do list? What good is that if you're not taking care of yourself? Like you can't properly enjoy the fruits of your labor if you are just constantly working, 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 working. You see what I mean? And let me also clarify that I am now an entrepreneur. I work for myself. So I still do hustle in a sense, But my hustle is more tied to a why. Like I have a reason behind what I'm doing. I'm not just working just to be getting a paycheck like how I was at most of the jobs that I had in the past. So again, I still hustle, but it's a different type of hustle. And I am also super intentional about living my life and enjoying my life in between hustling. So for me, a typical week looks like this. So on Sundays, I typically don't like to schedule cleanings on a Sunday. If I need to, or if they really, really need me, then I will, and I'll just add on an extra fee for that. I'll include that in the final cost. But anyway, Sundays, I typically, get prepared for the upcoming week. I do my meal prepping. I like to schedule my YouTube shorts on Sundays to schedule them out throughout the week. And what else do I do? Oh, I do take some time out, whether it's early in the morning or kind of later in the evening. I do clean this very small lawyer's office every week. It has to be cleaned before Monday morning. So instead of me doing it on a Friday night or sometime on Saturday, I just kind of wait till Sunday to get it over with. It only takes me about an hour and a half to clean that little office. So I do that on Sundays. And that kind of wraps up my day on Sundays. Monday through Friday, I may have, cleanings every day. If I don't have a cleaning every day between Monday through Friday, then more than likely it's 3 times throughout the week. So it could be on a Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, or Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, something like that. But other than that, on Saturdays, I do like to get caught up on my supplies, purchase supplies, replenish things, cleaning supplies, of course, that's what I'm talking about. Then I like to do my little grocery shopping. I may or may not have a cleaning on a Saturday. It just depends on, whether somebody needs me or if there's an Airbnb that checked out, something like that. But typically, I don't have cleanings on Saturdays and Sundays. That's not always the case, but most of the time that's how it is. And that's how my week goes. And I don't stress myself out. If I do happen to have a back-to-back cleaning, like let's say, for instance, on a Tuesday, I may have 2 cleanings that day. If I have one of those, I like to give myself time in between cleanings to decompress a little bit, get some lunch before I head over to the next house or Airbnb or whatever that I have to clean. So I'm not always back to back hustling and not taking time for myself. So I do incorporate self-care and a little bit of decompression time into my day every single day. I was not doing that when I was in corporate America. And that's the difference between hustling and living intentionally for me. So I just wanted to clarify that I'm not anti-work. I am anti-autopilot. That's the difference. So yes, it is all about intentionality for me. And that is my word for the rest of this year, the rest of the next year, and moving forward. That is my word, intentionality, living a life of intention. Speaking of which, my newsletter is ready a week before scheduled. So that's why I didn't post last week because I was just working on that. And also I had a very busy week last week, but I did take time out to um, practice some self-care, as I mentioned in this video. And I did take some time out to, like I said, just work on this newsletter. So it is ready. The link is in the description and it's also in my bio. The newsletter is titled The Intentional Introvert, and it is my mission to help people live a more intentional life. Through sharing my story, through providing my wisdom, I also want to incorporate some coaching in there. There will be a link for coaching calls here pretty soon. And yeah, I just want to have a sacred space for us to congregate and for me to share exclusive news before YouTube hears about it. You'll hear about it first in the newsletter, so make sure that you sign up for it. I really appreciate it. Again, it's titled The Intentional Introvert, so look for that link in the bio and also in the description of this video. I think I may link it in the comments as well. I mean, not link it, but pin it to the comments as well. So that is my video for today, hustle culture versus intentional living and what I learned from switching to living more intentionally. I hope that you learned something from this video. I hope that you can relate to anything that I said as well. If so, make sure you drop a comment down below. If you're not subscribed, please subscribe. It costs you nothing, and I promise this will be a very beneficial YouTube channel for you if you take time to subscribe. So thank you again for watching, and I'll see you next week. Bye.